As a young boy growing up in Fort William during the 40s and 50s, this racing legend developed an interest in mechanics and auto racing from a neighbor who shared his name and his love of the sport, Tommy Dow. By his teen years, Tom and a friend began working on their own car, a '48 Ford Coupe. Now, the story goes that when the friend's mother found out they were planning to race it, Tom was awarded the driving honors by default. This set the wheels in motion for what would be a truly legendary stock car racing career, which all began back in the late 1950s on the dirt track of the CLE Fairgrounds. It was during those early years that another important decision was made. When choosing what number to put on the car, the number 1 was selected due to its ease of painting, and it was that number which would distinguish Tom on the track throughout his half-century racing career. Starting out in the hobby stocks, Tom was soon making his presence known, with his name appearing in the local papers during the early 60s alongside fellow Hall of Fame drivers Barry Kettering and Al Massaro. With an all-out aggressive style, he had his share of tumbles and crashes, but more often than not, he would cross the finish line ahead of his competitors. It wasn't long before he earned the nickname that would remain with him throughout his career and be spoken by his legion of fans. Tom the Bomb Nesbitt had arrived. Moving up through the various divisions of racing, he would build and drive an assortment of cars. In 1962, he built a 1951 Olds that carried him to victory in the CLE Hobby Stock Championships. In 1964, he moved into late model racing and drove to victory in what was described in the papers of the day as a gleaming orange striped beauty using a 1955 Chevy body. It was in this car that he would start racing on the circuit south of the border at Hibbing and Proctor, something he would do to great success over the course of the next 5 decades at tracks all across North America. By 1967, he decided to turn his attention to racing full-time. In his 1960 Studebaker, he dug up the dirt at Superior, Rice Lake, and Riverview raceways, claiming all 3 track championships in 1968, and an incredible 19 of 21 late model features. 1969 found him behind the wheel of a 1965 Studebaker and earning more track titles. And by 1971, he was in a Chevy Nova and earning his 4th consecutive Riverview title and runner-up honors at the Wisconsin State Dirt Track Championships, a title he claimed the following year. All through the 70s, Tom was piling up the track titles in the upper Midwest U.S. circuit with victories at Cedar Lake, North Star, Stillwater, and Rice Lake, adding to what would eventually be an amazing record of 20 late model track champion titles earned throughout his entire career. For racing fans that took in the action at Riverview, particularly during the 1980s, it would be car number 1 that would most often have the checkered flag waving from the driver's side window at the conclusion of most late model feature races. The all-time winningest driver at Riverview, he claimed 13 track championship titles, 157 feature race victories compared to 64 by the second-place driver, and 5 Canadian dirt track invitational titles. When the 90s rolled around, Tom was entering his half-century of his life and his 30th year of racing, and at a time when most people would be winding down their racing careers, he was still going strong. Competing in the southern U.S. and the Midwest circuits, he earned success at tracks in Texas and Indiana and claimed the 1992 Louisiana State Dirt Track title, the 1990 overall WISSOTA National Late Model Championship crown, and back-to-back victories at the 92 and 93 Cedar Lake 100. With over 700 feature wins to his credit, Tom's accomplishments haven't gone unnoticed in the racing world. The winningest late model driver in Superior's history, he was inducted into that track's Hall of Fame in 2002. In 2005, he earned the distinction of becoming the first and only Canadian ever to be inducted into the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame in Florence, Kentucky. The same year, he won the 40-lap late model feature at the Budweiser Northern Nationals at Superior Speedway at the age of 65. After a half-century of driving, this fan favorite ran his final race in the fall of 2008. With racing truly in his blood, it's no surprise that he continues to remain involved in the sport of racing, passing along his knowledge to the next generation of racing stars.